let me tell you talking tips. Alex often felt a heavy knot of frustration in his stomach when trying to speak English. He understood grammar rules perfectly and knew thousands of words, yet conversations remained an uphill battle. His thoughts would race, scrambling for the right phrase, only to falter and get stuck mid-sentence, leading to deep embarrassment and a feeling of inadequacy. Traditional methods had taught him to memorize lists and conjugate verbs, but these didn't translate into fluid communication. He could write essays and pass tests, but actual, talking tips for natural conversation seemed elusive. This disconnect between academic knowledge and real-world application was incredibly disheartening, making his journey feel perpetually incomplete. The way of learning English, he knew, was failing him, making him question if he would ever truly achieve fluency. He yearned to express himself freely, without the constant internal translation happening in his head. This struggle ignited a desperate search for a more effective, how-to-learn English strategy that actually worked for speaking. One evening, a wise old mentor named Mr. Chen offered a simple, yet profound piece of advice. "Alex," he began, "you need to change how to think and speak fundamentally. Forget about translating. The crucial first step is to immerse yourself completely. This is why you must listen constantly." Mr. Chen explained that native speakers don't translate, they think directly in English. To achieve this, one must absorb the language intuitively. You need to truly listen English actively, not just hear it, he emphasized. This meant focusing on intonation, rhythm, and common expressions used daily by real people in real situations. Alex, intrigued but skeptical, decided to commit fully. He started with podcasts, then moved to YouTube channels, and eventually movies without subtitles. At first, it was overwhelming, a cacophony of unfamiliar sounds. He often felt lost, barely grasping half of what was being said, questioning his decision and patience regularly. Despite the initial frustration, he persisted, remembering Mr. Chen's words about patience. He focused on understanding the general gist, letting the sounds wash over him repeatedly. This passive absorption slowly began to change something deep within his brain, laying foundations without him even realizing the subtle shifts happening. He began noticing how people speak English in casual settings, the contractions, the idiomatic expressions, the natural flow that textbooks rarely captured. It wasn't about perfect grammar anymore, but about natural, conversational patterns. He started to internalize the rhythm, which was a revelation to his structured mind. This constant exposure started to reshape his internal linguistic landscape. The aim was to eventually, how to think and speak spontaneously, without the dreaded mental gymnastics. He realized that true fluency wasn't about knowing more words, but about making the words you knew come out effortlessly and naturally, like a native speaker. As he listened more, Alex found himself subconsciously picking up various talking tips. He noticed how native speakers paused, used filler words, and reacted in conversations. These subtle nuances were never explicitly taught in his classes, but they were critical for sounding authentic and engaging in genuine dialogue with ease. The turning point came when he started combining listening with active reproduction. Mr. Chen had called it listen and practice. Alex began shadowing speakers, repeating sentences aloud, mimicking their pronunciation and intonation, even when he wasn't fully confident in his own delivery yet. This active listen and practice felt awkward at first, a strange echo of voices in his room. He would replay short clips, trying to match the speed and rhythm exactly, often stumbling over words. Yet, with each attempt, a tiny improvement emerged, providing just enough encouragement to continue the difficult process. The true power of listen and practice emerged through repetition. He wasn't just listening anymore, he was actively engaging his mouth, tongue, and vocal cords, training them like muscles. This physical act cemented the sounds and patterns in his memory much more effectively than just passive listening ever could alone. Soon, small phrases began to emerge naturally in his mind, unbidden by conscious effort. He wasn't translating from his native language anymore. He was starting how to think and speak directly in English. This was a monumental leap, a sign that the passive immersion was transforming into active linguistic ability. Alex started recording himself speaking, comparing his voice to the native speakers he admired. This self-assessment provided invaluable talking tips for his own improvement. He could pinpoint areas needing more work, like specific pronunciations or intonation patterns, making his practice highly targeted and efficient. He joined online language exchange groups, initially just listening, then tentatively participating. The fear of making mistakes was still there, a constant shadow, but the desire to speak fluently now outweighed the apprehension. He embraced mistakes as learning opportunities, not failures, which was a big mental shift for him. His way of learning English had truly revolutionized. It was no longer about rigid rules and rote memorization, but about organic growth and immersion. He viewed the language as a living entity, constantly evolving, and he was becoming part of that natural, fluid evolution through consistent, daily interaction. Consistency became his best friend. He made Listen English a daily habit, whether commuting, exercising, or doing chores. Even short bursts of listening added up, building his comprehension and strengthening his intuition for the language. Every minute counted towards his ultimate fluency goal. People began noticing the change. His friends complimented his improved fluency and confidence. They asked, "How to learn English like you?" Alex always replied with the same simple mantra: listen, absorb, practice. It's the cycle that truly works. He became an unlikely advocate for this method. He explained that why you must listen goes beyond just understanding words. It's about grasping cultural nuances, humor, and the unspoken elements of communication. Listening broadly opens up the entire world of the language, preparing you for authentic, real-world interactions and conversations seamlessly. Active listening meant trying to guess meanings from context, paying attention to body language in videos, and anticipating what a speaker might say next. This made Listen English not a passive activity, but a dynamic engagement that sharpened his cognitive skills and comprehension abilities significantly. For How People Speak English, he advised focusing on how sounds link together, how words reduce, and how intonation conveys emotion. These elements, often overlooked in textbooks, are crucial for both understanding native speakers and sounding more natural yourself during conversations. Alex emphasized that how to think and speak in English develops naturally as you expose your brain to enough native input. It's like a child learning their first language. They don't translate, they just absorb and internalize through constant immersion, which is the most powerful learning mechanism. He shared specific talking tips he'd picked up, using common expressions like, you know, kind of, or I mean, to sound more natural. He also suggested practicing connecting words smoothly, avoiding choppy sentences, and focusing on conversational rhythm rather than just individual word pronunciation. The process of listen and practice became second nature, an enjoyable part of his daily routine. He discovered new podcasts, interesting documentaries, and engaging speakers, turning language learning into an exciting exploration rather than a monotonous chore that he once dreaded doing daily. He encouraged others not to fear the listen and practice cycle, even if it felt clumsy at first. Embrace the awkwardness, he'd say, because that's where true learning happens. Every mistake is a stepping stone, not a barrier, on your path towards achieving remarkable fluency. The true beauty of the best way to learn English, he found, was its simplicity and effectiveness. It didn't require expensive courses or complex theories. It simply demanded consistent exposure and courageous attempts at speaking, a recipe accessible to anyone willing to put in the dedicated effort. Alex's journey transformed him from a hesitant learner into a confident communicator. He could now travel, connect with people from diverse backgrounds, and even pursue career opportunities that required fluent English. His world had expanded exponentially because of his linguistic prowess. He realized that linguistic mastery wasn't just about communication, it was about opening doors to new cultures, new perspectives, and new ways of thinking. English had become a bridge, connecting him to a global community he never imagined he could be a part of so effortlessly. The cycle continued: listen English, listen and practice, refine, talking tips, and improve, how to think and speak. There was always more to learn, more accents to understand, and new vocabulary to acquire, making the learning process an endless and rewarding adventure. His advice to anyone struggling was unwavering: while you must listen relentlessly, let the sounds permeate your mind. Then, listen and practice aloud, however imperfectly. This combination is the ultimate accelerator for language acquisition and achieving conversational fluidity. Alex discovered that active listening meant not just hearing words, but understanding the underlying emotions and intentions. This deepened his comprehension, making conversations more meaningful and less about simply decoding individual words, allowing for genuine connection. How people speak English in real life often involves slang, idioms, and fast speech, which passive listening alone won't teach. You need to actively immerse yourself in authentic content to truly grasp these nuances, something Alex learned through extensive self-study. He found that regularly reviewing material he had listened to helped solidify new vocabulary and grammatical structures. It wasn't just about consuming new content, but re-engaging with familiar material to deepen understanding and retention of complex concepts. The subtle art of how to think and speak without translation became second nature. He could formulate thoughts directly in English, leading to more spontaneous and natural conversations, free from the mental delays that once plagued his attempts at communication. Alex started giving informal, talking tips to his friends, emphasizing the importance of accent reduction through mimicking. He explained that listening closely to native speakers' pronunciation, even individual sounds, was key to improving one's own spoken clarity and confidence. He explained that the way of learning English should be enjoyable, not a chore. Find topics you genuinely care about, hobbies, news, entertainment, and consume English content related to them. This passion makes the listening and practice process far more sustainable. How to learn English effectively involves embracing repetition without boredom. Alex suggested using different resources for the same topic to keep things fresh while still reinforcing core vocabulary and grammar through varied contexts and different speaking styles. He even started dreaming in English, a clear sign of his brain fully integrating the language. This was a profound moment, signaling that the constant "listen English" exposure was rewriting his linguistic pathways, creating a truly immersive cognitive environment. The ability to understand jokes and sarcasm in English was another milestone. It showed a deep understanding of cultural context and linguistic subtleties, far beyond simple literal translation, allowing him to connect on a deeper, more personal level with native speakers. Why you must listen to varied accents, Alex advised. Exposure to different pronunciations from around the globe prepares you for real-world interactions and broadens your auditory comprehension, making you a more versatile and adaptable English speaker and listener. He became a firm believer that listen and practice is not a one-time activity but a lifelong journey. The language is dynamic, always evolving, and continuous engagement ensures that your skills remain sharp and relevant in an ever-changing world. His journey reinforced that the best way to learn English is not about innate talent, but about consistent, strategic effort. Anyone, regardless of their starting point, can achieve fluency by dedicating themselves to immersive listening and active, fearless practice. Alex often reflected on his initial struggles and how far he had come. The frustration had been replaced by joy, the hesitation by confidence, all thanks to a fundamental shift in his learning approach, prioritizing natural acquisition over rigid rules. He encouraged people to find a listen English routine that fit their lifestyle, even if it was just 15 minutes a day. Small, consistent efforts compound over time, leading to remarkable progress that often surprises the learner themselves. The ripple effect of his fluency was immense. He no longer felt limited by language barriers in his personal life or professional aspirations, opening up a world of possibilities and connections he previously thought were unattainable due to his English struggles. His story became an inspiration, a testament to the power of deliberate practice and the transformative potential of consistent listen and practice. He proved that fluency is within reach for anyone willing to invest the time and embrace the process wholeheartedly. Alex emphasized that how people speak English in real life is messy, imperfect, and full of natural hesitations. Don't aim for textbook perfection, but for authentic communication. This realistic approach reduced pressure and made speaking more enjoyable for him. He learned that effective talking tips often came from observing how native speakers communicated naturally, rather than prescriptive grammar rules. It was about adopting patterns, intonation, and common phrases through exposure and active imitation. The confidence he gained in how to think and speak directly in English transcended just language. It positively impacted other areas of his life, boosting his overall self-esteem and problem-solving abilities, proving the holistic benefits of language mastery. He found joy in the subtle improvements, the moments when a difficult sentence flowed effortlessly, or a complex idea was understood instantly. These small victories fueled his motivation and reinforced his belief in his chosen way of learning English. Why you must listen extends to understanding different registers, formal, informal, slang. This broad exposure prepares you for any conversational context, from a job interview to a casual chat with friends, making you truly versatile. Alex now teaches others, sharing his How to Learn English philosophy. He advises setting realistic goals, celebrating small wins, and never giving up on the dream of fluency, advocating for consistent, enjoyable immersion through listening. The cycle of listen and practice had truly become the best way to learn English for him, enabling not just speaking proficiency but also a deeper cultural understanding and appreciation. It was a holistic journey, not merely a linguistic exercise. His journey from frustration to fluency stands as a powerful testament. Embrace listening, actively practice, and watch your English speaking skills soar. This simple yet profound method can truly unlock your full potential and transform your linguistic future.